Hi, everyone. Welcome to Office Hours, where we answer your questions 24/7. We don't actually answer your questions 24/7. We answer them 7 days a week, but you can ask those questions 24/7. So you can go to askofficehours.global. That's askofficehours.global. Now, 24/7, you can put the questions in there, and then within the next day or two, now you have to pay attention to it because people might vote on them, so they might take a couple days to get through if it's not as popular as other questions. But generally, we'll get to your question within a day or two. So make sure to listen to it as well. We've had a couple in the last couple of weeks where folks are, they ask the same question a couple times, and I'm like, I don't know, we did this one already. so make sure to listen to the previous shows. Make sure that we've covered it as well. So askofficehours.global, throw those questions in any time. Of course, if you're in Mukana, you can ask the questions. You can vote on the questions. And if you don't know what that is, you can go to askofficehours.global/join. Put your email in there, and we will start sending you emails. And you'll get the ability to go into Discord and to Mukana and all the other stuff. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the questions. Alex, what do we have?
First question this morning is from Douglas Carmichael. The Yamaha DM7 has assist functions that use machine learning to suggest preamp gain, channel name, and fader level. Is this useful, or will tools like this take the creativity out of mixing?
Go ahead, Jesse.
So the general tool set featured in Assist seems to be all built around getting your session up and running a little bit quicker. Tools that help you get through all the startup faster, don't hinder creativity. They get you to the creativity a little bit faster. That said, I have never been in a studio with a $30,000 console where the engineer didn't have their presets, templates. They didn't have the board already set up exactly how they wanted it. I don't know how many $30,000 board engineers are going to be using tools like this.
Good, Alex.
Jesse just hit that spot on. I mean, that technology is great in, I think, lower cost products like the DM3, which is really geared at people. And you can just tell by the way the interface is designed. It's geared for people that are not necessarily full-time audio engineers. And it makes sense in a product like that. In a $30,000 very expensive console, that doesn't make sense. I mean, someone like me, no, I don't need this technology. In fact, it's way faster for me to just get the sound check done very quickly and have my fingers on the gain pot. I can get the levels set up just fine that way. So I don't think it really makes sense on a product like this, other than just, hey, that's a great showcase of our technology.
Good guy.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. It looks like that unit's $29,999. And I know that Douglas has a DM3, and I was going to ask Alexander, how is the supply on those DM3s, and do you think that this technology is going to come down to that?
Supply is not great still. The Yamaha is constantly playing catch-up. I talk to my rep every week, and I had some that just came in after waiting 4 or 5 months for them. And now those are all gone, so those back orders may fill, and now they've got 0, and now they're estimating sometime in late July for another batch. Now Canada maybe it's a little bit different. The US gets it faster, but for us here, and from what I'm hearing from my friends in the US too, it's equally difficult to get them. So I don't know how much longer that's going to be going on for, but I guess for the foreseeable future, over the next 3-4 months, we're still going to have problems with those.
Okay.
Yeah, this is one where I'm seeing it on back order as well, and haven't been able to source one. I know that Douglas got one, and so I'm wondering if somebody could, like Douglas or somebody that has one, could bring one into After Hours and put up the interface with like a share screen so that we can all play with it. I mean, would be a great resource for Office Hours to be able to bring in tech like this either on loan. Actually, Alexander, would your rep loan you a Yamaha that you could bring into After Hours so we can play with it?
He's got a demo one on his account. I could probably ask him.
Let's do it.
Mickey says if you can't set levels, you should be nowhere near a board. So there was which is I think what we were all thinking, and Mickey just said it more concisely. So anyway, yeah, it doesn't make sense at this level to do this. I will say that some of these automatic settings are really great for people who are getting started, but I just don't think that they should be getting started this board. Now, John said could be useful in areas like house of worship where staffing may be short sometimes. So being able to just have it preset there, but typically, if I was managing something like that, I would show up if someone wasn't there. Like if I hadn't managed that process. But I will say was playing with, when it comes to automatic stuff, I was playing with Apple's new color correction, color enhance tool in Final Cut. Is the only, like, you see Apple, they do an update to Final Cut and they just go, we added this new color enhance. And I was like, really? Just, and Alex Goldner was also like, one feature? That's all we get is one feature? Oh my goodness. Like, it is one of the most Apple features I've seen in a long time in Final Cut. There are no dials. There are no turns. You touch it and it immediately fixes your video. And it's really good at it. Like, it's not just like, oh, I moved the tint one way or the other, but it's like doing some deep stuff. Like, I threw different clips into it, like, that have been shot in different color or whatever. It's not Charles. Like, this is not a colorist. It's not a built-in colorist. It's not going to give you any feel. It's just going to mean that all of your stuff is correct. Like it just is quote unquote correct. Skin tones are correct. Things look like they, where they should be. I was kind of amazed at what it does. I threw a couple clips in of something I shot over the weekend. I threw a couple clips from older stuff, and it just takes all the, just makes it as good as it's going to be as far as color goes. As far as just clean, it's fixed. I think, and the reason I bring that up is this is the opposite of Apple looking at, the average person using Final Cut is, we can aspire that they're all filmmakers, but a lot of them are educators. They're corporate. They're doing a lot of online social stuff, and they don't know a lot about color, and they just need something to go, and have it go away. And so I bet they spent a lot of engineering time on this. Like, to have no buttons and to have it do that was a big lift. So that's a good example of where you want to put it in. And so, of course, most of the clips that I put in there, I've already either fixed or I'm going to fix in Resolve, inside of the color panel. But if I was someone who just got that footage and just needed to fix it so that it looked good for the web, it's pretty impressive. So I think those all this stuff has a place. I just don't know if the board, the DM7, is the place for this set of tools. Next question.
Next question's from the QR code. Gene J. Anthony in Skokie, Illinois asks, silly question, I hope. Do most of Christie High End Projectors still come with the ability to blank portion of the chip's raster, specifically looking at the native 4K models, but am also looking at new straight-up HD projectors as well?
I haven't tried to blank a raster for a very, very long time. Usually we mat them in some way, shape, or form. So I actually don't like I actually like the way that the mat works. And so usually when we need to do that, and Mickey says, yes, they do. So you can blank the raster. I don't like changing what the raster does. So I would rather, we've had these little pieces that will blank it out. Now, a lot of times we just send signal. We trim the signal on the way out. Like, so when we'll give you a 1080p, let's say, or a UHD, and the footage is blacked out there. And this is, I don't know why Gene is doing this. I can tell you the reason we do it is because we have people at the bottom of the screen. So we want to project something on the screen to have graphics across the top of a theater. But we don't want, like we have actors or people being interviewed or whatever at the bottom of the screen. And we just want it to be black, down below. And so the way that I like to do it is just to put a mat in front of it. In fact, as you move the mat away, you'll soften that lower edge, which is kind of nice. So anyway, so I think that's, I would not you, as Mickey said, you probably can do it. I wouldn't change the state of the projector unless someone made me. I'd rather do something physical in front of it or in the signal, but I wouldn't change the state of what the raster's doing. Next question.
Alex in Petrolina, Brazil, and this is from the QR code. I wonder if a stream multiple BMD Studio Cameras 6K Pro using htmp or SRT to an ATEM HD8 or a streaming bridge, if ATEM will be in sync. If TEM will be in sync on ATEM. No,
they will not be in sync. They will not. If you have a multiple BMD Studio cameras all doing SRT or RTMP, I think what you mean is RTMP there, and they come in, they're not going to be in sync. They're not going to get there. One thing that I think you could do, I was trying to think about this because you've asked this before. One of the things I was thinking you could do is if you got those cameras and you brought them, if they were in the same room and you're trying to get them, I'm guessing that you have cameras in one place and you're trying to bring them into another place. somewhere else on campus or somewhere else that it's there, you could theoretically put them all into a quad converter. So it's a 3G to 12G converter. And then we do this for some other stuff. Then send that signal. It's a 4K signal now, but send that via SRT or RTMP or whatever you want to the other side. When it comes out the other side as 12G, not 12K, but 12G, you convert it back to 3G. Now, what that'll do is it'll convert those quads. So it'll take four HD signals, convert them to an UHD signal that are 4 quads. When it gets to the other side, it'll convert them back to 4. It'll take the 12G signal and convert them back to quads. So you could do it if you want to transport something, but I would bring them all in. And as Mickey said, SRT can be synced, but SRT encoding on BMD products do not support that. Yes, but you can't. It's not that you can't ever sync SRT, like a Makito will do it, but you can't do it on the Blackmagic cameras that I know of. Next question.
Jeffrey Reyes in Bronx, New York asks, I just got a Shure MV7 Plus mic, which has both XLR and USB-C connections. When connecting to a computer, would the panel prefer to use the XLR connector with an audio interface or just use the USB-C connector?
Go ahead, Alex.
Well, it really depends. I mean, I would have said if you had the previous model, which had a preamp that wasn't as good as the new one, I would say probably. But on the new one, the preamp's pretty good on the new model. And also, one thing you're going to lose quite a few things if you go to an XLR, just analog interface. You will not have the DSP processing that's built into that mic, which they made significant improvements on. So now there's noise suppression on the new mic, plus you get dynamics processing, so you get compression, EQ, and all that sort of stuff. So you lose all that stuff because you can't use the app over XLR analog connection. Will it sound better? Maybe. Depends on what preamp you're going to be playing. Depends on a lot of factors. How good are the acoustics in the space, right? And again, all this stuff is subjective. I don't think it necessarily makes sense to take a $300 microphone like that and plug, and you could buy a Rupert Neve Shelfer channel strip and plug that in, $4 or $5 grand. Sure, you could do that. So I don't think you really benefit a lot from using that. If you want a simple portable setup, I would say stick with the USB setup and make sure you use the new Shure Motive app as well and take advantage of all the features that are in there.
One of the cool things about the mic, if you're using the USB out, is that we talked to the Shure rep who was here on our show, is that you can set all those settings, and then when you unplug the mic, when someone else plugs it in, if they don't open up the Motive app and start to adjust it, it stays that way. So that's kind of a useful thing from our perspective. We have mostly MV7s. It's funny, we've been recommending when we bring people on to Michael Krasny's show, the Gray Matter show, we send a lot of MV7s out unless they resist us just sending them out. They're like, oh, I got my own mic, and that's almost always a disaster. so I have my own mic is just slightly above I don't need a mic. so anyway, so we send these out, and when they start using them, they're like, oh, can I order one? And can I have this one? Can I buy this one from you? And we're like, we have to replace it, so it's not going to save you any money. So they buy the MV7 Plus, and everybody's come back that's done it has come back and said, this is even better than the one you sent us. So we're hoping to start switching over to the MV7 Pluses. They look pretty good. I do think what I love about them is that I can just send them to someone. They can plug a USB in. Now with an MV7 Plus, you have USB-C instead of that micro garbage that's in the one that we sent out. But you have the option, if I'm going to have a round table, if I'm going to invest in 3 or 4 or 5 mics, and I have a round table and I want to throw it into an actual mixer, I can. So that's what makes it useful. Next question.
Next question is from Jacob Goodnight in Indianapolis, Indiana. Does the Blackmagic Hyperdeck have the ability to quickly jump to and play the last 10 seconds of videos for tech rehearsals and practice? Would this require a companion to accomplish?
It doesn't automatically do it. I think that what you could do is set in and out points for each of those pieces. And so you could set those clips, but I don't even know if you could do it for each one of those pieces. If I was doing that, unless someone else pops into our chat, I don't know of any fast way to do that without some pre-programming. I think that there might be a way to set that up so that you could pre-program it through talking to it with some kind of piece of software. It could grab those files and play out 10 seconds, but You'd have to. It wouldn't be something that that you could do natively on the Hyperdeck. As Mickey said, you could do it with a companion, but I don't think you could do it with. There's nothing on the Hyperdeck that would do that. Yeah, go ahead, Guy.
Yeah, I know you could do it with vMix, and we had Jonas program this for us for a show, and we do a lot of these tech rehearsals where we're walking through the run of show, and then the director's just telling me in my ear, okay, jump to the last 10 seconds of the play out, and I just have a companion button that Jonas had set up that just jumps to the last 10 seconds, and we walk through this whole show, and there's like 5 playouts, so I'm constantly having to push that button and play out. We have a last 30 and it's a last 30, and so we just play out the last 30 seconds, but I know it's possible, definitely with vMix. I think that it's possible, because it's using companion, I'd imagine it's the same protocol, and we just jumps to that.
Mickey said you can also do this with something like Mix Effect if you were cutting on an ATEM. I'd be interested to see how I would do that. If you can get last, what I will say is that'd be probably a great request for Atem. If it doesn't already do that, I'm trying to see here. Just trying to see if I can see something that quick that does that. Of course, my computer came up and said, I want to update. I'm just looking here. I just don't. Be a really interesting feature. I don't have any Hyperdeck set up. Be a really interesting feature to have, though. Yeah. OSC commands to Mix Effect. Oh, yeah. You could do OSC. Yeah, again, it should be something more custom, but I do think that Atem could theoretically add that feature to it that just says grab the last 30 seconds of each clip, or first 30 seconds. That'd be really interesting. That, like what he's already done with the super sources, being able to have some little feature in there that would be useful. Next question.
Next one's for me. Yesterday, I could not live stream and record at the same time on my ATEM Mini Extreme ISO. It wasn't until I unplugged the NVMe that the stream came alive. Now the disc light is permanently orange, even with the drive connected. Thoughts?
Jesse?
We've had pretty much every odd behavior that you can imagine from an ATEM at one point or another in production, and like a 99% success ratio of just unplugging everything front to back, like unplug all the cameras, unplug the ATEM, and then just wait half a minute and plug everything back in. And usually it resets. You might have to, retouch your camera controls, set the color balance again or whatever might have changed. But usually a full power down with everything unplugged gets us across the finish line.
Did you unplug it, Alex?
I didn't physically unplug it, but I did. So I've got it. I've got the power supply wired to this
but you restarted
remote switch. So I did power cycle it, but I haven't physically removed the barrel connector from the unit, and I haven't unplugged the USB cable.
So you haven't unplugged the USB cable?
So the drive is disconnected, but the USB cable is still connected to the port. So I'm looking at it right now, and I see an orange light.
I think I would take Jesse's steps and then come back to us and let us know if it got any better. You can throw a Cochrane tomorrow and say, this is what happened. So yeah, that'd be good. Next question.
Next one's from the QR code, Robbie Snooks in Chilliwack, British Columbia, Canada. Have you experimented with upconverting 1080i footage to 1080p 60 for posting on YouTube, especially for sports? If so, what are your results? In addition, have you tried upconverting in real time so YouTube streams at 1080p 60 rather than 1080p 30?
So you can't get something that's not there, but you can get something that looks, it will do it if you want those frames. So in the early aughts, we made the conversion by trying to do a lot of rigmarole with both the interlace frames. So we would, Magic Bullet was probably the first one that Stu Maschwitz, who's been on our show, had built, where it would try to interpolate between the two and build a cleaner edge. As scaling got better, really the solution happened that came through was if someone wants to convert, just grab the fields. The field is half the resolution. It's half the vertical resolution of the whole frame, and just scale it up, because our scaling got better than our interpolation did. And so if you run a 1080i footage, and 1080i is typically 5994, 1080i 5994 is usually what you see a lot of. It's 30 frames a second, but it's 60 fields. So there's 60 half frames there. And so what most of the converters will do now, including the Teranex, is they just separate those fields and scale them up, because their scaling functions are usually better than that, and that's what it should do. I believe that that's what it'll do in this environment, and that what you'll end up with is a softer image. So you'll end up with a softer image. You may end up with some edging to it, but it's not going to be. But yeah, as Mickey said, we typically have gone to 720p because the resolution's not there in 1080p anymore. So typically, when someone wants to go from 1080i, we deliver 720p, and we can do 720p 60, because what you're creating when you grab those fields, you really have a 540p image, because it's half the vertical resolution. So it's a 540p image. And so 720p is going to look cleaner and more like what you expected. So there's no way 1080i is really. I just can't believe people can still use it. Anyway, sorry. So I digress, but it's just like such a horrible format. Anyway, so but that's, I spent years and years and years converting 1080i to 720p. But I think that going to 1080p, I agree with Mickey that it's a waste of time. Going from 1080i to 720p is the cleanest way you're going to go do that. Next question.
Next question is from the QR code. Mark B. in Roanoke, Virginia. We are streaming to YouTube Live and Facebook at church. The stream out speed fluctuates between 2.18 and 3 megabits per second and intermittently disconnects without reconnecting. It streams audio in 1080p 30 frame rates per second video. What speed is needed?
Good guy.
Yeah, I have a couple questions. Beforehand, what are you getting with speedtest.net or Cloudflare speed test, and just see what your maximum up is. For 1080-30, you're looking at about 8 megabits would be good at H.264. So if you're getting easily, 8 megabit up, there might be something else in between your hop. There might be some internal networking going on that might be slowing things down. One way is to increase the buffer, and a way to do that would be with an intermediary like AWS, or a simple way is Restream. They even have a free account to run some tests, because what you do is you just say, take that RTMP code in your encoder, let's say it's Wirecast, push it out of Wirecast, go up to Restream, and then from there go over to YouTube, and then you can go to Facebook as well. So some of these other services like Caster, AWS will allow you to feed up one stream and then push it over to multiple places. So if you are getting a really low data rate out of your venue, let's say you are getting only 4 megabit out, then I would definitely try to go to H.265 or a more efficient codec to try and cram it down a little bit more, and then push it to a service where you have more buffer or delay. So, who cares if it's a 2-minute buffer if you're getting a perfect stream, because the real-time nature of it doesn't matter if it's a church service if they're 2 minutes behind. But now you've got plenty of buffer and plenty of space to make sure that that stream goes out clean.
Yeah, this is what the Elemental Link is built for. So like if you have a very low frame rate, it's using Zixi with and Zixi is really what you want to get out of a place like this. So it is, we can talk about the vagaries of whether you want to use Zixi or SRT or other things like that. What you don't want to use in a low bandwidth environment is stuff like RTMP. It's just not going to, there's a whole bunch of problems with RTMP, including the handshake that goes on and everything else in low bandwidth. So you definitely want to, Zixi is built for this thing. Like this is what it does. And so the Elemental Link, you'll just put your baseband signal in, HDMI or SDI, hook it up to the Ethernet, and it's going to go out. Obviously, you want more bandwidth. You definitely, at that much bandwidth, cannot do 2 streams. So you need to send it to Restream, or you need to send it to something, Restream or something else in the cloud that you're going to then send it from there. So that means you're only sending one out of the building and then out to the rest of the world. But what Zixi does is it will navigate that and do what it needs to do to your video signal. It's going to be the cleanest version of what you're going to get out of there if you use it. And so I would recommend in that environment. It isn't expense. There's a small expense. If you're only doing this for Sunday mornings or whatever, it's going to be $3 a week or something like that, or $5 a week to do it. But there'll be $1,000 for the box. So if you are able to get that box and plug it in, I think, and then figure out the AWS, and of course we're here to help you. So if you're trying to figure that out, you can do it. Otherwise, the less hardware intensive way to do that would be to find a way to send it to something like Restream. But I think that again, you want to be figuring out minimum SRT out to something else. You don't want to. I don't think you want to use RTMP out from that low bandwidth. It'll break up a lot more. Next question.
Next question is from Vic Hernandez in Springfield, Missouri. When is the OH late edition taking place?
6 p.m. today. So 6 p.m. today, a couple of us will get together, 6 of us total, and we will give it a shot. We're going to do a little test here this morning, but otherwise we plan to, at 6 p.m., we will have we're going to run 1 hour of Q&A. So you have 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour in the evening. So we're really excited about it. So this will be testing vectors. So we'll be, and so you'll see it. It's going to be very basic. It's going to be a handful of, now, I have to say, the people that are volunteering to help, I'm not going to call them out on the show, but I was a little surprised at the level of folks that are, across the board that are helping with this. So I'm pretty excited about where we're going to go with it. So you'll see us start adding features. We're going to do it this week at 6 p.m., and then we'll start again in 2 weeks, and we're going to kind of do some adjustments, and then we'll do it every week. And you'll see us just slowly start to add little bits and pieces in. We'll get your feedback on what you think. But don't worry too much about it this first one. It's just going to be a handful of frames. We're all going to be happy that we got through it, and then we'll start to build and evolve. But we're excited this is our first kind of hello world into the cloud production for office hours. I mean, obviously, there's lots of people in our organization that have been doing lots of it, and they've been very helpful in helping us make this actually work. So we're definitely standing on the shoulders of a lot of incredible work by members within office hours. So we want to thank everybody for that. Next question.
David Brady in New York City asks, are there any details to the Pro Video formats updated in OS 10? Should this be applied to production systems?
Go ahead, Guy.
The jury's out. I mean, it's. I just checked it real quick. It says the Pro Video Formats package provides support for the following codecs, and there's a big list of them. It does say next to the asterisks for something like RAW and ProRes RAW HQ that requires a Mac computer that supports Metal, and there's a link to a list of some of the requirements for Metal and what those hardware requirements are. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of jumping right in. I would probably hold back and wait. And it's a 2.3.1 update. I would give it a few. This is one where on production machines I don't risk anything. If it's working fine, don't break it unless there's a reason to you need a ProRes RAW or ProRes RAW HQ.
I couldn't find that update. I was looking for. I didn't see anything new.
You just go to software update, and then hit available updates, and you'll see it.
Let's see. Yeah. So it's not popping up on my machine. I don't know why. Anyway, the only thing I was wondering is whether it was going to do anything more with the immersive formats, but I don't know. But there's a lot of. On a day-to-day basis, I would say that you probably don't need any updates. You can probably stay behind for quite some time. But if some of the new formats are something that you need, then look at it. But I think that the thing that a lot of us are tracking is the new HEVC MV. But I don't think that that's necessarily in this update. It may be coming soon if it isn't, and that is the stereo format that Apple did not create. I think a lot of people will say, "Oh, Apple created another format," but they didn't. This is an MPEG format that just hasn't been used since 2015. When we first started talking about stereo, SMPTE the MPEG group got together and started figuring this stuff out. And so it's been sitting around for a while, and Apple dusted it off rather than creating a new format, and it's coming out. But I think that a lot of us, as we start to see stereo happen. We're starting to see, a lot of those things happen here, but I don't know. Let's see. I see what it does, but I think it's just making a lot of these things a lot more efficient. So that's why it's probably requiring Metal. I agree with Guy that I would probably wait for a little while, let the dust settle on this one. I don't think there's anything that's driving for this. And so I would probably hang back and give it a couple weeks. Next question.
From the QR code, Goran in Slovenia asks, would Focusrite Vocaster One Studio with camera output and very competitive price at the moment be a good device to go from balanced to unbalanced audio for Blackmagic ATEM Minis if you don't need stereo?
Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, the Focusrite Vocaster is a really good interface with much better preamps than anything in the older Scarlett line. So these are brand new preamps with much higher gain, a lot more headroom. So definitely good interface for that. However, the going from balanced to unbalanced, that output jack, you're not going from balanced to unbalanced. It is an unbalanced output. So that would be good. You can use that to go directly into the ATEM Mini's little 3.5 millimeter unbalanced input as well. So that sends a negative 10 dBV consumer grade signal into the ATEM, which is what it's looking for. You just want to make sure in your ATEM that you set in the control software, set that input from mic level to line. I believe it defaults to mic level, so be very careful about that. But other than that, as long as you use a high quality, really short cable going to your ATEM, 3 feet or so, that should be just fine.
And of course, you can ask questions again at Mukana, of course, and you can vote on them and talk about them. You can also ask them at askofficehours.global. That's askofficehours.global. So if you've got questions that may not come in today, but if you throw those questions in, usually sometime a little before the show, we start pulling those questions in for the next day or in that day. But you can ask the questions 24/7. Next week, by the way, for this show, for Mondays, we're going to take on a different route for the summer. We've done this in the past. We've had education summers. We've had accessibility summers. And this summer is going to be the summer of AI. So we are going to be talking every Monday. We're going to be talking about AI. And what we're going to do is next Monday, just something to put in the back of your head, is we're going to brainstorm. So our first thing to do for the rest of is to think about what we're going to do. So next Monday, come ready for ideas of what do we want to talk about. If we had 8 weeks to talk about AI, what would be the 8 things we want to talk about? So go ahead and bring those ideas with you, but that'll be next week. Next question.
Next question is from Chris Sabato in Albany, Oregon. Blackmagic released their camera app for Android. Will you all be dropping your iPhones for Android now, right?
Go ahead, Alex.
No, but I'm going to focus on the positivity of the app. A lot of people have asked for this. Android, there are a lot of users. There are more Android than iPhone users out there. I think that's fantastic that you have an app that is great on that platform. And you know what? The Google Pixel 8 Pro, I was just looking at it last night as I was looking at this announcement, and the Pixel 8 Pro looks like a very competitive phone. So I think this is great. More choice is great.
Yeah, go ahead, Guy.
Yeah, the amount of phones though that you see that are listed as supported is very slim, because I have a couple Android tablets where I was like, okay, I'll at least give it a roll. But it's Samsung Galaxy S23, and then the 24, and then the Google Pixel 7, 8, and 8 Pro. So that's a pretty limited amount. And on that same note, there was this company, Rave Pubs at Infocom, that had a group of people walking around with iPhones, and they were doing these simple. In fact, I'll put the link in the chat. But they did these simple iPhone shoots, just a handheld and a college student walking around, and they did hundreds. But these are only getting like 15 views. But I was just wondering if something like this, where you shoot on the Blackmagic camera app, shoot it directly into DaVinci Resolve, and then you have that workflow, and that's really the value to me. Is you got content in the field, goes straight up, editors in Resolve, pushes it out. It's safe. It's somewhere else. It's no longer just on that phone. So there's benefits to this workflow. It's just how quick are the Android folks going to adopt, and is it worth buying that phone to be able to get into the ecosystem?
Yeah, it does. It is limited to the Samsung and Google phones, because there's a lot of individual features to the lenses and sensors and everything else. And so I think that Blackmagic took a small step there, in that area. It's actually, and this gets into one of the difficulties of developing for Android versus iPhone, is because there's so many options. And so with an iPhone, the infrastructure is a lot easier to take care of. So anyway, I think it'll be interesting to see how many people use it. It'd be really, we're never going to have the data. I don't think Blackmagic's going to tell us how many people are downloading Android versus, but I will say that it makes a huge difference. And I think that the challenge, and what I'm curious about, is whether, one thing that's not clear here is what formats does it save in. So, so I don't know that, how that looks, but I think that that's something I'm interested to see, because I know that, like, for instance, the Samsung S24 saves in formats that are not useful. Like they're in production. Like, it's just not, like, I get that it's a great camera, but I can't save it in anything I want to use. So, so the thing is that, so what, is if the Blackmagic camera can't save to at least some kind of Avid format or to Apple ProRes, no one's going to care. Like, no one that wants to use this camera is going to care. So if it's still just the formats that the phones have, it's a big problem for Android phones right now. Is that the formats that they're saving to the drive aren't competitive with what the iPhone is saving to, and that's only when we're dealing with 2D and not 3D. Next question.
Next question is from Jesse Kester from Glendale, and here on the panel. EF lenses used to be the sweet spot bridging photo and video cameras. As that format fades to black, what ecosystems would you recommend?
That's a good question. I'm going to hang on to which is funny, Jesse, I had some choices between what I shot. I shot something over the weekend, and we chose the cameras that we used because of the lenses. I had a bunch of long lenses that are expensive to get, and I needed 100 to 400s. I needed a couple 100 to 400s, a couple 7200s, and I just didn't want to go out and rent all those lenses, and so I used cameras that had EF lenses, because those are the lenses, and so it's a really important question. I think that, what I love is in the Ursa cameras, the ability to change everything. So you're not committing to something. You have mounts, and you can, it takes a little bit of work to take that front end off, but I can go from PL to EF to Sony, I think. I mean, there's a lot of different mounts on it that you can take on, pull off PLs, Micro Four Thirds, I believe. Anyway, there's a bunch of, I don't remember those. The only ones I do is the EF and PL. So we swap between EF and PL all the time. And it is, I find that to be, a really useful way to do this. And it's kind of a bummer that I have to commit when I use other cameras. Good guy.
Yeah, that's a real tough one. I started to go into the L mount arena and bought a couple of lenses, and then I was like, why am I doing this? And then I was using the Fujinon Cabrio, and I adapted that to an EF, and then I was able to use that with the Blackmagic line. But it just depends on what you're shooting with. I mean, with the fast autofocus of the FX6 and the FX30, I'm seeing that ecosystem. A lot of folks that I know are buying into that whole realm and ditching all their Canon glass. One of the ones that we saw at InfoComm that came out is this 24-105. The thing that you can get, and this is a 2.8. So it's a 24-105. It's $3,000, but then you can add the power zoom to it. So now you're in it $4,000, but now you've got cinema style power zoom with a 2.8 lens. So that's pretty cool to be able
or
to
ENG style, just to be
ENG
specific.
style. Sorry, that's
the cinema
style.
folks are like, what are you talking about? That's not cinema style.
So a servo zoom though on a 2.8 is pretty wicked. That's consistent throughout. So it's not gonna shift around while you're zooming in. So that's a nice lens. If I was to buy something, it'd probably be the red Komodo with this RF lens, and that's a pretty sweet setup there. Yeah.
I think I have talked to a couple people that are hanging back on buying a lot of stuff because they have $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 of EF lenses. And they're kind of like, we're just going to keep buying cameras that do EF for a little while. At some point that breaks, but people will hang on for a little while. Mickey said, for both stills and video, L mount if you're starting from scratch. Otherwise, I would move to PL for motion picture. And I will admit that PL is pretty nice. It's like when I use a lot of PL lenses. Next question.
Next question is from Paul Wallace in Austin, Texas. On CNN, Biden and Trump will meet in a closed studio in Atlanta with no live audience. Each candidate's microphone will be muted when it is not his turn to speak. Technologically, are we back to Nixon Kennedy debates?
Go ahead, Jesse.
When it comes to physical technology, a case could be made when we're talking about intellectual technology. I don't think so at all. I think we've moved a long way from there. When it comes to emotional technology, I don't think much has changed since our protozoa days.
I think we should put them in different rooms. I don't even think they should be on a stage. Like once you get to this point, why don't we put them all in different rooms? Put them in their boxes. Put them in little boxes. Maybe we can fill the boxes with bugs. No, I'm sorry. Both, so I mean, let's see how you handle stress. Like as a president, we want to know that we can throw a couple hundred bugs in there and you're going to be able to handle it. So no, I think I would love to see one over Zoom. We should get Zoom to sponsor the debates and have them do them both over Zoom. I don't really care. So anyway, next, what they do with these, I mean, this is, there is no use. I'm not going to say anything about either side, but I will say there's no usefulness in these debates. This is all theater. It's all a waste of time. It's a waste of everybody's time. All right, next question.
Next question is from Douglas Carmichael. One caveat of the Ubiquiti platform is that devices that don't send traffic through the gateway, like most AV devices, aren't shown in the client devices page. Have any of you seen this? What do you recommend for inventorying large networks?
I don't know if I have. I haven't tried this. So with this, Guy, do you have any ideas there? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm looking at mine right now, and I see everything. So I don't know what he's talking about. I'm looking at. I don't want to show it because there's a lot of stuff in here that isn't worth showing. But I could even see I have a Rockio thing for my sprinkler system. I have a separate network for my IoT stuff. And yeah, some of the stuff that is unnamed.
And what are you using? You're using Ubiquiti? Are you using a Dream Machine?
Dream Machine. Yeah.
Is it a Dream Machine or Dream Machine Pro?
Dream Machine Pro. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I could see. This is safe to show. I can show the topology, but yeah, I see everything. Everything that's even connected to my Wi-Fi. Every device. The only thing that disappears is I have a bunch of Netgear 4250s, and once it goes into there, then that is the ether. It doesn't show anything that's not in the Ubiquiti realm. So the stuff that's connected to a separate switch, it doesn't understand any of that. It just knows, it just ends there. It shows the switch and then it ends. But as far as everything else that's connected to any of these other 5 switches and Wi-Fi units, I can see everything granular. I can see the traffic. Everything's there. MAC address. It's all there.
Next question.
Next question is from Vic Hernandez in Springfield, Missouri. Will tonight's office hours be available through the regular channels like Mukana and YouTube?
Yep. It's all available in the same place. Same bat, different bat time, but same bat place. So yeah, so just come back to Mukana, or you can go to YouTube and you'll see it streaming to our YouTube channel, and inside of Mukana you can ask all the questions. In fact, we'll probably reset this show noon, and so you'll be able to ask questions in there as well. So there you go. Next question.
Robert Green in Los Angeles asks, TV and cable viewership have been dying for years. With YouTube and Netflix being king, what's next? Infographics here.
Go, Jesse.
Like I was saying, our emotional technology has not changed since Protozoa days, and what's next is the same thing, and that is communities congregating around entertainment that they believe speaks to their ideals.
Oops, sorry about that. Let's show this graphic here. Hold on, I think this was the graphic. Let's see. There we go. So here's the graphic that was being discussed here. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit there. So you can see streaming kind of crossing over in 2022. Broadcasts, and other is kind of going up and around. I don't even know what other would be, what they're considering other, unless that other is. I haven't had a chance to look at this read this through detail, but yeah, you can see cable slowly easing off. I guess peak cable was 2012. There you go, right there, and it's been a drop off ever since. Obviously people jumping into streaming has made a big difference. This was I think the adjustment of, hey, we got to start unsubscribing from some stuff, so that it's slowly recovering again. So anyway, I don't know where these two things look related. So I don't know what. It'd be interesting. Maybe it's in the article. We didn't get a chance to read the article before the show. So, but those two look related, and man, it's such a big jump. It almost feels like a statistical anomaly, but like something changed in the way that they were measuring what they were doing there. But yeah, who knows? The issue is the big thing I think people are not getting is how big, and maybe this is the other that they're talking about there is YouTube. YouTube is just people aren't. I don't think that people in traditional media, they think that everybody wants narrative. So this is the big mistake I think a lot of people make is that people really think that everybody wants to read narrative. But you don't walk into bookstores very often anymore. There are some, but if you walked into a big Borders bookstore, 15 years ago, what people didn't really get back then is that 95% of the bookstore is nonfiction. It's about what people are excited about. It's about their cars. It's about cooking. It's about architecture. It's about traveling. It's all information that we wanted. And 5% of the bookstore was fiction. And it was right in the front. So you think about it a lot. But I think that the mistake that people make is that as the ability to generate content has gotten easier and easier and easier, more and more of that content is available to people who can now make it and talk about the things that people are passionate about. And it's not necessarily, a lot of it isn't narrative, because it turns out that narrative is really hard to do. Like it's hard to tell a story well, and so it's hard to do, but it's much easier to talk about a vertical that really well or you're really passionate about. And there's a lot of people out there that are going to look at it. And again, everyone starts to compete for time. If someone's watching all this stuff, I will say that now, and I admit that I'm a little on an outlier. I essentially cut the cord kind of inadvertently almost 30 years ago. I moved to a house that didn't have any cable. I never got the rabbit ears. And so I just got used to not having TV. And I've had intermittent times when I've had TV in between then, a year or two here, but I haven't had solid television for a long time. I have YouTube TV now, but what's interesting is that with YouTube TV, I turn the DVR on to everything. And then I just watch things whenever I feel like, I'm going to watch this show. And there's certain things, but I never tune into anything except for Steeler football. so anyway, that's the only thing that I pay attention to. So I think that this trend is probably going to continue to go to this direction. Yeah, go ahead, Jesse.
Something you're kind of touching on it, but something that gets under my skin a little bit when articles frame it like this is, a decline in viewership, and then this goes up and this goes down. The curve I'm interested in is it's been basically a vertical line of people creating, ingesting, sharing, and discussing media. It's just been like basically straight up over the last 30 years. And I think that's a more accurate representation of what the appetite is in the human condition and how it's being fed than any one platform or one episode of MASH.
Yeah, there's some interesting, if you look at this here, this is the trend that everybody should really look at more carefully. It's this one, which is, the age 18 to 29. You're just watching this kind of drop off. So in the higher ages, it's pretty stable. But if you look at these trend lines under 40, it is down, and it is, this is for cable or satellite TV. And that's really, you have to, when you start thinking about the future of things, you start looking at those age groups and seeing not where they are today or if they're the most important or not, but that's a pretty large set of age groups. It's the same thing that when people are when Google is upset about the green bubbles, the reason they're upset about the green bubbles is that 87% of kids under 18 are using iPhones because of the blue bubbles. Well, partially because of the blue bubbles. And that's a really hard trend to turn around. So if someone spends 4 or 5 years on an iPhone, are they actually going to go buy an Android phone? And the chances of that drop precipitously over time. And so when you look at these trends that are going down like this, it's pretty intense. And I think that it'll be interesting to see, how many of these. I think the broadcast cable is. And I think the problem is that in the streaming world also, the quality of production has gone through the roof. So what used to be kind of TV, looks now have film actors. You look at the Apple, and I've said this in the past. My brother worked on Presumed Innocent. You look at the production quality of Presumed Innocent. That's a quote unquote a TV show, but fully feels like a film. And with that kind of quality showing up in the streaming networks, it's very, very hard. And then on the other side, so you have the streaming networks doing that, and on the other side of that, you have all the YouTube stuff that's all about everything that you're interested in, and all the little verticals of things that you're interested in. And so I think that's those are the two sides of that puzzle that are kind of squeezing it. Because a lot of TV formats when you don't watch a TV format for a long time, when you come back to it, it looks really absurd. Like, like we've been living, you get, when you're used to it, oh, there's this, the Monday mornings with ABC or I want to say Kathy Lee and Regis, but because I don't know who the new one is because I haven't seen it for a long time. And so Kelly and somebody. Anyway, so when you see those, when you come back to them after you haven't seen them for years, it's a really weird format. It's a really weird format that you only like because you were watching it all the time. But once the spell is broken, it's really hard to come back and go, oh, this is something I want to watch. Especially when it's competing with all the other things that I'm interested in. Next question.
Håkan Fors in Stockholm, Sweden asks, looking for budget-friendly solutions to get HDMI or SDI video from a remote football field to my cloud/local vMix machine. Suggestions. Remote location may or may not have wired internet.
Guy?
Yeah, so there's a couple ways. The expensive way would be the Haivision Makito with the 4 inputs, and that would all arrive up time aligned. The cheap way, which I haven't done this, but you can give it a whirl. There is a cheap 4K encoder called a Zowie Tech, and it's getting pretty good ratings on Amazon. So it's $169, and it's a 4K SRT encoder. So what you would do is you would take 4K is made up of 4 1080s. You would send up a quad split. So you can take a video wall converter that would basically take 4 HDMI ins and put one in each quadrant. Then up in vMix, you can extract it. The benefit of this is that they arrive frame accurate because it is the same frame. The bummer is if you send it up any other way, you can drift. So the other way that we've done stuff like this in the past is with the Magewell or with an Epiphan, but you need to time align everything. And so SRT Mini Server is another way to do this that does have a time aligning feature. So you could go with, this is free software, SRT Streamer Lite, and you can put in an SDI or an NDI capture device, and then you would take SRT Mini Server, which you could rent by the month, and you would install that on a separate. I would put it on a separate cloud instance. That's how I have it, and then everything arrives over there, converts it over to NDI, and then you pick it up in vMix, and that's the other way to do it. So you got a couple options.
Yeah, and we're actually doing a football game this Sunday. If you're interested, you can reach out to me. We're going to send. I keep on saying the announcement on it. It's got to build the form. But we're going to be doing a football game, and we're going to be streaming it. But we're just going to cut it on site. But we're going to use a live view, and I think that a live view is a great way to do that. so we would highly recommend thinking about that. Next question.
From the QR code, Gene J. Anthony in Skokie, Illinois asks, what is the reputation of Ukrainian company Keep Solid's VPN products, including VPN Unlimited? Friends of mine use it to protect themselves, but I want to know the real tech rep and how protected they are.
I do not know. I don't use a lot of those. I don't use a lot of external software VPNs, so I'm not as familiar with what those do. I would love to give, I'm hesitant to give advice, even try to give advice on something that I don't know when it comes to VPNs. Most of the VPNs that we work with are hardware based, or at least hardware sourced. So I don't have an answer for you there. Sorry about that. Next question.
Next question is from Douglas Carmichael.
Douglas Carmichael. Yep.
Douglas Carmichael saw an article about Willie Mays tribute. How would content be transferred to the truck quickly?
I don't know what eulogize. Oh, I don't know what happened here. Oh, if you're talking about that there was so here's the secret to memorials is that a lot of when people are close to the end of their time here, a lot of times people pre-build a lot of things. So if you're looking at something that looks super, I don't know what happened here, but this could be something that does look like a pretty straight ahead sweeper. So maybe the sweeper was just they were able to type it in and make it go. But if it's something that looks pretty complicated, like obituaries for most popular folks have been written, and they just simply update them all the time. And so there's people who just do that. They just update those. And so when you wonder why an obituary, how a very detailed obituary comes out the next day, it's not someone didn't pull an overnighter doing that. They already had obituaries and memorials and videos for people who are considered at a certain status, and Willie Mays would be definitely in that status where a lot of obituaries were already written, probably a lot of stuff was already collected, and there's he's at a tier that's probably, one of the top most known athletes in the last century. so I think that's most likely things getting there quickly probably had to do with the package is probably partially built. But yeah, so it would be, otherwise it would, but it could get there in a lot of different ways after that. Next question.
Next question is from Roz McNulty in Vancouver, Canada. What is a quick fix for room sound and enhancing the speaker? I want to advise a friend on a quick fix for his videos. I want a sound filter that he could use.
Alex?
Yeah, so I would recommend trying the Waves Clarity VX plugin. It's this one. It's $30 US right now. It works incredibly well. I've been testing it out a lot. They also have a pro version, which is much more expensive. I think it's $300. But I would start with the basic one. It's just literally a one knob, wet, dry. You apply how much processing you need. But it does an incredible job, I'm finding, of separating real background noise from human voice. So give that a shot.
Yeah, I mean, the one that we use the most for pulling this kind of stuff out is RX. So that's the RX filters are the ones that we probably use the most. The best way to fix that is to fix it in the room, which is just putting up, like if I do a voiceover and I didn't expect to, or if I have to do something else, I'll throw up blankets around me. Just hang blankets out there. It's not going to be perfect. You're not going to have, you may have some more bass than normal or other things like that, but you can get rid of the reflections really quickly by softening the room. Like the mic I have here is completely unusable without all the moving blankets that I have around me. You want to try to get rid of that as much as you can in the room. Everything on the other side of the camera is game. If you don't have stuff on the other side, get some stuff up there that's going to be soft and to grab onto some of those pieces. So, next question.
Håkan Fors in Stockholm, Sweden is asking suggestions for a Sony camera that outputs 4K 50 FPS live for a wide shot in football. Want to be able to use crop into a full HD live. Use Sony PXW-Z90 style cameras today.
Off the top, I don't buy sports cameras that much anymore, so I can't tell you. The 4000 series are the ones that we've used in the past for this kind of stuff, and so I don't know what the newest ones are for that. I'm just trying to see if we can get to their page here. What you're looking for is the Sony broadcast cameras, I assume, but I'm just trying to think through there's the 450s, which have been, are well known, for those things. So the 450s, again, the ones that we've used in the past are 4200s and up. So I don't know. That's probably out of your price range. Yeah, go ahead, Guy.
Yeah, I would probably match the same one. I just watched this big panel on Ross's site where they talk about the storytelling of the TDs. I mean, there's 3 TDs, and they're just sitting there banging on the fact that they want the viewer experience to be smooth. So you want a matching camera, and in that case, either find one that is that same model or the next step up. And because of the extraction, if you're pushing in, you want to have that lens be nice and crisp, and that's a 1-inch sensor. At Infocom, they did show us the A7. It's a $12,000 PTZ camera. That's probably what I would get, but it can match any of the line. They were talking about it matching an FX6 or anything. That was one of the sales reps' big spiel, was that it could match any of their line by using these LUTs that are baked in.
Next question.
Next question is from Jesse Kester in Glendale. What is a production-ready messaging app you would recommend that doesn't delete voice messages? We'll be asking all of our team members to install it on their phones, so it has to be OS-agnostic and not a huge security risk.
Messaging app? Are you looking for a kind of a general messaging app?
Yeah, so I sent some voice messages, very important to the whole team, through the iPhone messaging app. One person played the first 30 seconds of one of the messages and didn't listen to the rest in the 2-minute limit, and it was gone for the whole team. And I didn't find this out until way too late, and we don't want to make that mistake again. So just something we can send voice messages that people can listen to at any point in production. Like a WhatsApp might function, but I don't know if that is something in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with Mickey. He said Telegram or Signal. The only thing I use outside of messages is Signal. So, so Signal is the one that I use. Other people, Telegram, but those are the two that I would take a look at. We are done with the first, our 1 hour of Q&A. I want to thank everybody here. Thanks to our panelists for making this great. And thanks to all the producers asking all the questions and keeping this conversation moving forward. I want to thank all of the folks that make this possible. So there's an incredible dev team, the management teams, the production teams, everyone that makes this happen. It's a small village that is required to get this all off the ground. So we appreciate everybody's contribution. We will. I just want a quick reminder that Andy Carluccio and Jonathan Cocatella will be here tomorrow, and they will be here to talk about tiles. Sorry, my brain turned off. So tiles will be here tomorrow. So it's going to be an exciting day. Thanks again. Have a great Monday, and remember, think about AI. Think about AI and think about how you might want us to cover that. We're pretty excited about that. Today we traveled 56,000 miles. That is 89,000 kilometers, and that is 440 million bananas for scale. All right, let's go ahead and jump into After Hours. Oh, the close on a 1 hour is more complicated for me. So Alex, you said it was easier on Saturday. I'm not used to that. I'm like, oh, what am I doing here? Because I went into this kind of announcement mode, and then I was like, oh, no, it's a 1 hour, it's a Q&A. So, yeah, so anyway, interesting. So, yeah. Sony cameras. I have a lot of experience now with the Sony full frames. I just, when we were talking about broadcast cameras, I was like, oh, 2/3 inch chips. Cute.
Yeah, I was trying to find what the next level up of that model was, but I couldn't quickly find the next one. But before I used to know all those models.
The 5500s and the 3500s. Again, none of my work now does anything with 2/3 inch chips. It's just kind of like, oh, it's